It is season 2, episode 21. It's either the 3 Touchdown Show or the Roberto Clemente.
I prefer Roberto Clemente.
And I think, oh, look at that. Evan, what's that behind you?
It's a video filter. It is for the United States Athletic Hall of Fame, which is active and able to be voted upon.
Roberto Clemente is one of those people, so vote today, vote tomorrow. You can't vote all the time every day, but you can vote every day. And we're going to announce the first winner next Juneteenth. Not this Juneteenth, but next Juneteenth. So we're pretty excited about that. I think we've cornered the market in Juneteenth sports. Someone had
I suppose.
Why not two white guys?
Yeah, Canadian and American. Yeah, you know.
Absolutely.
A guy who Kyrie Irving believes is raised in the most racist city in America. So
I don't think he's ever said that about Spitestone Barbados once.
No. Anyway, we'll talk about Kyrie later. I'm sure.
Do we want to open up with? I mean, there is an announcement, Hall of Fame related, the College Football Hall of Fame. But my God. There's 200 nominees. We're not going through all of that.
There are a lot of them. I think there are some interesting ones. There's some like, oh my goodness, I remember him, like Michael Bishop, former Patriots great. And by great, I mean practice squad member. But like the one I think is most interesting is Reggie Bush.
Yes.
So if he makes the College Football Hall of Fame, does he automatically get his Heisman back?
You know, that's a really good question. I was sort of, I have visions of Chris Webber in my head, you know, with this, because he gave back his Heisman, but they never necessarily, they didn't forfeit any wins, did they? USC?
I have no recollection.
I don't think so. I mean, we all know Reggie Bush might have gave back the Heisman. Reggie Bush won the Heisman, period.
Yeah.
Reggie Bush is one of the most exciting college players ever. I hope he gets in. I really do.
He should. He should get in. It's the whole NCAA thing of this never happened is all very, very strange. Like UMass has still never been to a Final Four, despite what you saw with Micah Camby and Lou Rowe. Like it's just, and it all because like it didn't happen because someone gave Marcus Camby a necklace. Like it's dumb the way they do things. But again, it's the NCAA. They don't do anything particularly correctly. So.
I would think that if they could have found out what every player has done in every Final Four, everything would be vacated. And a lot of that is because you're taking people from disenfranchised backgrounds, making them stars and not letting them make any money off their stars, and not even allowed to even go work at McDonald's, for fuck's sakes.
Right. Like they can't take an internship somewhere, but if they were any other position at that school, if they were a star biologist, they could go do whatever they wanted, even if they're on full scholarship. But the moment they're an athlete, now it's a problem. And I understand like getting cars and I understand things like that, but like not letting people work. Right.
Or make money off their own likeness.
Yeah, well, Ed O'Bannon, good on you on that one. But we'll see if anything ever gets done. I mean, that's still being held up by the NCAA waiting for Congress to get involved, which is always a great idea. But yeah, we'll see. They got to do something about that. Jay Billis is going to explode if they don't soon. So.
Yeah, and looking through the rest of this list, I mean, I think like every single one of these guys is worthy of the College Football Hall of Fame. I think what they do wrong, just build up some excitement. Pare it already down to 30. Play with this. You can do it at this point. I don't see why you can't. Get people more excited, because there's a reason why every time they announce their finalists, it doesn't get a lot of press, because who really wants to go through all that?
Well, it's not only that, it's they haven't even inducted the previous class yet.
That's true too. Yeah. Well,
it's like a weird, and it's not a COVID thing. They do this every year.
Yeah.
Where they're like, here are our finalists for next year.
Oh,
and
they're on something else.
Yeah, like here are finalists for next year, and you could vote for them, but it's like almost taking away from their current class.
Mm-hmm.
It's very strange.
It's
So
the best thing they ever did was, and you talked about that, God, many, maybe a year ago on the show, that the best thing they did was really move.
yeah, I was at the old one in South Bend. They moved to Atlanta, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It
South Bend.
got looted.
Oh, that's right. I did get looted. I forgot about that. Yeah. The one in South Bend just looked like it'd been looted. No, but the one in South Bend was nice. But when I was there, as people may or may not know, my brother was a sports media director for Notre Dame, and the play-by-play announcer for the basketball team. He actually just retired this year, so I went down there with him one time, and it was cool, but it was all sort of falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
It had the visage of like a the enchanted tiki room at Disney World. Like, I guess it was cool at one point, but definitely seen its best days. That was very much the College Football Hall of Fame. So I'm glad they moved it because again, South Bend is not exactly a tourist mecca. And there are going to be more people who are going to see it in Atlanta. Although, to be fair, most Hall of Fames aren't in, like, who's going to Canton, Ohio, except for the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Who's going to Springfield, Massachusetts, except for the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame?
I think unless you're going with any kind of specific purpose, and even then, although I did go to Cleveland for the purpose of the Rock Hall.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the Rock Hall several times over the years, but I mean, good thing about Cleveland, even if you don't really feel like hanging out, Cleveland's right on I-90. So if you got to drive from Boston to Seattle, you hit Cleveland no matter what you want on the way. You also hit Chicago, which is more, I guess, interesting. But you want to stop at the Rock Hall, there you go. But yeah, I mean, Canton is 2 hours away from anything useful. So.
Yeah, about that. I think only when I had that possible job in Cleveland that I managed to go down there to go see that. Taking my wife to the Rock Hall was easy. Convincing her to go to the Pro Football Hall,
Now think about it, though, I-90, the Basketball Hall of Fame is also on I-90. The Boxing Hall of Fame is on I-90 because I've seen signs for that before. The Circus Hall of Fame, I believe, is on I-90.
Isn't the Baseball Hall of Fame? There's a sign off of I-90.
This town is not far off I-90 as well. So apparently that's where the Hall of Fames are.
Well, that's the Hall of Fame highway. There we go. We've just rechristened.
There we go. We've rechristened I-90. There we go.
Nice.
I don't know if I've said this before. My favorite random fight between states is on I-90. And there's a sign in Western Massachusetts saying that whatever the height is in this town is the highest point on I-90 somehow. Mm-hmm. And it calls out some point in South Dakota that is 6 feet less than this height in Massachusetts. And I just think it's hilarious that, like, someone was driving through South Dakota like, wait a second, this is shorter than Massachusetts mountains. Like, we are regaining our state pride by finding a random place in South Dakota for highest elevation on a random interstate.
That might be the two most random states to get into an argument, I would think, Massachusetts and South Dakota.
Yeah. South Dakota and Massachusetts do not have a lot to argue about usually.
I would think not. That
maybe because not even college hockey. That's a North Dakota thing. I don't think South Dakota is any good at college hockey, as far as I know.
I think you're correct. Yeah. Is there any name that also stuck out on this list? Because again, we don't want to go through.
Right. I mean, as a Patriots fan, I'm very excited to see Kevin Falk here. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are a lot of great players. I mean, everyone from people like Tony Gonzalez and Troy Vincent is here. Andrew Luck is here. Julius Peppers. Like, there's some really good people. And then there's some people who are like, oh, yeah. Don't you remember, who was the one I was like, who did that for me? Robert Gallery. Like, oh, yeah, I remember him. He was awesome in college and not very good for the Raiders.
It's fascinating how many you're boomer bust and, like, everywhere in between, like, when it comes to the pros.
How about Josh Heupel, runner-up for the 2000 Heisman?
I remember him. Was there another one who I think he's already in the college hall, who was like a super stud at It's Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, he was Oklahoma.
Yeah, Eric Crouch.
Yeah, Crouch. I don't know if he's in or not, but yeah,
I
same
think
sort of.
I think he might be. I could be mistaken on that. Actually, I'm just looking at the list here. Like Tim Couch, like what a bust he was. But that's not what this is about.
That is not what this is about. Yeah. So, no, it's an interesting group of people. I mean, they could select like how many people even get in?
I think it's like a dozen, but again, they're not very transparent. Another sort of issue with that, and they just they're doing themselves no service. They could really find a way to build up. They've got a market really cornered on this because College Basketball Hall of Fame. Let's be honest, not a lot of people really care about that, especially when the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame honors college achievements.
Right.
And it's not going to get any better for them, especially when there's a lot of great players coming up who will never play college ball.
Right.
I mean, the person who, if he was healthy the whole year, he still might be, because they haven't announced the Rookie of the Year yet, have they? In the NBA? I don't think so.
No, they don't do that yet. They have like the NBA honors now, remember?
Right. Well, yeah, but I mean, they've already announced the most improved player. The sixth man is already awarded. So they've got, so I think, anyway, moving on from that. So LaMelo Ball is the person who still might win the Rookie of the Year. He never played college.
True.
And we're going to see more and more and more of that. Even just if we look at the last big class in the Naismith Hall, Duncan didn't play college. Kobe didn't play college. Chris Bosh isn't going to get in.
Duncan played college. He played at Wake Forest.
Did I say Duncan? I meant Garnett. Sorry.
Garnett. Yeah, Garnett didn't play college.
Sorry. Yeah, I meant Garnett. So Garnett didn't play. Kobe didn't play. Bosh from this year, he had 1 year at Georgia Tech. They're not going to put him in for that.
Right.
It's not going to be a star-driven hall where this one can be. And you're a bigger deal as a college football player than as a college basketball player. You just are. So they're really doing themselves a disservice. But that's on them. It's not like we don't see that all the time.
Right. Well, to answer your question, they've only named sixth man and most improved player of the year this year for 2021 so far. So.
Okay. All right.
So Jordan Clarkson was sixth man. Julius Randle was the most improved player. Oh, and Giannis was the All-Star MVP. But we knew that. Those are the ones they list.
Giannis, yeah. Should we move into, because you said you had some questions for me before we got into our regular segment.
Well, I had a couple questions. So one, I do want to point out again, going back to my backdrop, that we did have the retirement or announced retirement of one of the greatest coaches of all time. Love him or hate him, and a lot of people hate him. Coach Krzyzewski, or as they used to say in the old Bud Light commercial, yes, I'm Mr. Krzyzewski. You mean Coach Krzyzewski? Yes, I am. But Coach K is retiring at the end of the year following Roy Williams out the door, who just retired this year. So we're going to have a big change, I think, coming over here for all the longtime names in college basketball. But I'm not surprised Coach K is retiring. I'd say it's probably about time. He's how old is he now? He's 74 years old.
I didn't know he was that old. I mean, you have to assume he is because he's been around so long, but he looks pretty damn good for 74.
He's 5 years older than Belichick.
Okay. Both of whom are eligible for the United States.
But yeah.
Do you think Coach K will end on a reasonably high note? Because he didn't make the tournament this year.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, North Carolina didn't either. No, wait, North Carolina did and Duke didn't. That's what it was. Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully it'll be a reasonably high note for him. I mean, he's been around forever. His credentials are impeccable. If you're going to do a Mount Rushmore of college basketball coaches, he's one of your four.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I mean, you can debate. I think you start with Wooden and him, and then you debate who the other two people are.
Yeah.
So is it Henry Iba? Is it Roy Williams? Is it Bobby Knight? Like, you pick whoever else you want to talk about. But those are the Lincoln and Washington of the college basketball coaches Mount Rushmore. So, but good for him. So,
Yeah.
going out when he wants. No, the question I wanted to ask you, another retirement that happened today is with the Celtics. Celtics were eliminated by the Nets yesterday for the playoffs. There are a lot of Nets fans, which, first of all, there are Nets fans, but there are a lot of Nets fans on the internet saying how embarrassing it is for the Celtics to have all those trades where they took all the draft picks and then get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, to which I say the trades got us Brown and Tatum, and none of the players you got have anything to do with those trades. Right. Like Durant, Harden, and Irving signed with you as free agents. It has nothing to do with the trades. Congratulations. The only reason you have those players are the Knicks are a terrible place to play for a lot of people. Like the ownership is so bad that nobody wanted to go there. Regardless, as a result, today Danny Ainge retired as the head of basketball operations, and they took Brad Stevens and moved him up into the general manager, or the head of basketball operations, essentially the general manager for the Celtics. He's 44, which is the exact same age Ainge was, believe it or not, when he took over the same role for the Celtics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's retiring at 62. And he's saying this is an actual retirement, and I think it actually might be. He had a heart attack a couple of years ago during the playoffs. And I think it's a legitimate thing that he may just be like,
done.
Why am I doing this? He's got championship as a player. He's got championship as a executive. He was a Toronto Blue Jay.
Yes.
Like, there's nothing else for him. Like, he's honestly one of the forgotten multi-sport athletes. He played in both the major leagues and the NBA, which I don't know. Has anyone else really done that?
I got to look that up. I don't know if anyone's done that since. I'm sure there are people who could have, but
right.
They did.
Did Chuck Connors do that? He may have as well, and he was an actor as well. I think Chuck Connors might have played baseball as well at one point. But regardless, there aren't that many people who have done that. And certainly not that many white dudes have played professionally in two separate sports, right? So he doesn't have much to go for. I hear they're really like him with the Jazz. I hear that if they make a change in Portland, where he's originally from, they want him to go there. I think it may just be done, which leads to my question. Is Danny Ainge someone who you think might be elected as an executive into the Basketball Hall of Fame?
I think he's got the credentials for it, yeah.
I mean, he has one championship. He's got six conference finals appearances. He's got 3 NBA finals appearances as an executive, 18 years in the role, known as Trader Danny, right? Which probably hurt him at the end because nobody wanted to make a deal with him. I don't know what their real credentials are, but he was 18 years for one of the signature franchises and won a championship and drafted 2 players who are one who seems like if he continues, a lock for the Hall of Fame. The other one who still could develop into someone who, if they win a couple championships together, the Scottie Pippen to Tatum's Jordan. Entirely possibly draft 2 Hall of Famers. He certainly had a team with 3 Hall of Famers that he put together that won one and probably should have won at least 2 titles, if not for a couple of injuries.
I think he's worthy of consideration. I do think that his overall career helps him because, again, we don't really know who's on this committee.
Right.
So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he gets almost like the version of a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Because he had the professional career. He was a great college player as well at BYU. So it's entirely possible he could get the Lifetime Achievement as an executive. Probably not for his coaching. The most thing you remember as coaching is he got the towel thrown in his face when he was the coach of the Suns.
I forgot all about that. Jesus.
Yeah, I can't even remember who did it. I just remember he got the towel thrown in his face. So actually, random story. I actually once saw him talking on his phone to, I believe, another general manager outside of Chipotle in Waltham, Massachusetts. I went in there for lunch probably 5 or 6 years ago. And Danny Ainge was just out front talking on his phone about some sort of trade at the time. So he's he's much taller than I anticipated, because you think of him as a short guy. He's still like 6'4". So
I don't even know how tall you are.
I am the average height of the American male. I'm just like a shade under 5'10".
Okay. Right. Assumed you were.
If my hair grows high enough, I'm like 5'9" and 7/8. So if my hair is high enough, I'm 5'10". So I'm very nondescript. I'm a white dude with average color eyes, average color hair, average height.
So Joe Walsh said, just an ordinary average guy.
Yep. So anyway, but that was one of the questions. The other question I have for you is, with Montreal and Winnipeg playing for the soul of Canada in the NHL, it got me thinking. So what would be the matchup that would, I'd imagine that nobody really cares about Winnipeg.
Outside of Winnipeg, that'd be accurate.
And I'm sure a lot of people have strong feelings about Montreal.
Yes.
In Canada, right? So, what would be the matchup between Canadian teams in this division that would be the one that people have the least issue with, wouldn't really care one way or the other who won? And which one would be the one that would be like, I just want a bomb to drop and both teams be eliminated? Like,
there's a lot of hatred towards Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that stems from just the fans being complete assholes, rioting after they lost.
Yeah.
You didn't win, you lost. Like, that was an embarrassment to the city. And a lot of my Vancouverite friends are embarrassed for that.
Because I feel like, from an American's perspective, I presume it's just everyone hates the Maple Leafs and everyone hates the Canadians, but Vancouver's carved out a special niche for a franchise that's never won a damn thing.
They have. I think if there was like one, if it was like an Ottawa versus Winnipeg thing, would be sort of the worst rated in Canada in terms of television ratings. It's still do exceptionally well, but
that's a Jacksonville Cardinals Super Bowl.
More or less, yeah. Although Canadians would still watch that. Montreal, Toronto, though, I mean, there's, even if you hate both teams, there's something special about that. It really was. My dad watched the last 20 minutes of that game.
Watch Toronto all over itself again.
Oh, I love that. That I can accept being an Ottawa Senators fan and knowing that my team is always going to suck as long as Toronto never wins.
As bad as the Senators have been the last few years, you've still won a playoff series multiple playoff series more recently than Toronto has.
That's so true. Yes. Yeah. Toronto always finds new ways to lose. Toronto will forever be, well, I'm sure a lot of people said that about the Cubs and the Red Sox, but it just feels permanent with the Maple Leafs.
Put it this way, though. The longest streak for not winning the Stanley Cup in NHL history is the Rangers, who went from 1940 to 1994, 54 years. Do the math. When's the last time Toronto won the Stanley Cup? 67. That's 54 years ago.
So that's a new record. Okay.
Well, they haven't been 54 Stanley Cups because of the 2004 strike. So it's only technically 53. But they're basically, they're not going to win this year. If they don't win next year, they will officially set their new record for futility.
Love it.
And not win the Stanley Cup. And by the way, just to show you how long it's been, 1994 was ago. 1994 is 27 years ago. That's halfway to the Rangers being back to 54 years.
I'm still sort of like stuck on stupid on the original question. Like, which one would be the one where, I don't know. I mean, Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Vancouver, I think would be huge. Edmonton, as much as they've had that past tradition, realistically, it was so long ago.
Yeah.
That, again, Edmonton, you're a fan if you're in Northern Alberta, you're a fan of Calgary. So that whole province, which isn't the biggest province to begin with either, in terms of population,
right.
The size obviously.
Right.
So like that split. Saskatchewan, I don't really know where they sort of fall. Probably more Winnipeg, I would think.
It's just interesting. And just by the way, Edmonton, I will never say, I watched a lot of that series because that was on late here. So I got to watch that like before I was doing dishes, before I went to bed, everything. I will never say a bad word about Leon Draisaitl. I love everything about the way he plays. Connor McDavid is a lazy player. And they are not going to win anything until he grows some ability to actually fight for stuff.
Yeah. For someone who's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, he wilts. But I used to say the same thing about Ovechkin. Not because he wasn't a fighter, but just because he couldn't make anyone around him better. He didn't learn that until his 30s.
Well, Ovechkin's team hasn't made it out of the first round since they won the Stanley Cup.
No, but I used to say up and down, Ovechkin will never win shit internationally or in the NHL. So
yeah, well,
took 10 years for that to eventually be proven wrong, but
he did it. He's got the one. You can't say anything about it. He's got the one.
That's very true. I can't say that anymore.
No.
We got 3 segments left. It's going to be a short show. We've got 2 of which are yours. The Death March.
Yep.
And
with a quiet, just by the way, a quiet.
Won't we do that, and then I'll do my elevator up, elevator down, and I think yours. You should be the hammer again because I think you've got a lot. You've got quite a lot to say, and I don't have anything controversial on mine.
All right, so we'll start here. So we'll start in the world of football. So the first person is Jim Byrne, who's also his son Kevin Byrne played in Major League Baseball as a pitcher. But Jim Byrne was wide receiver and tight end in the AFL, an AFL All-Star in 1969, played from 68 through 76 with the Oilers and Chargers. Passed away earlier this week at the age of 74 in Texas. But so again, there's so many people, we've talked about this before, there's so many people from the AFL who they have not done right by with the Professional Football Hall of Fame. And they had the 100th anniversary and we got one AFL guy from the Jets, who I can't think of.
What's his name?
Jets lineman. Why can't I think of his name? Winston Hill.
Winston Hill was part. Okay.
Winston Hill was part of the AFL. He's the only one from the AFL from that whole group that they put in. There are a ton of them still left who they need to work on. But again, somebody else who they might want to think of at some point. We also lost from the world of boxing. Hold on. Wrong place. Keith Mullings, who is Jamaican. He died at the age of only 53, but he was he beat Lionel Light. He beat Terry Norris to win the light middleweight championship in 1997. Defended it once and then lost his belt in 1999, but he was the middleweight champion of the world back for a couple years back in the late 90s. Passed at only the age of 53. I don't know for what. He retired back in 2001. From the world of wrestling, we lost Tony Marino from the WWE, known as Batman, Devil Blue, Dino Lanza, and Tony Marino. He wrestled wrestled from 54 to 87. He was 5'9", 235. So essentially not the biggest guy in the world. But he was a jobber with the WWF in 63 and then became Batman in 66 with the sweep across country. Do you have anything to say about Tony?
No, before my time.
Okay. Yeah, he passed away at the age of 90 earlier this week. From the world of racing, we lost Jason Dupasquier, the Swiss 19-year-old motorbike racing who died in the race this last week. He got run by his own bike and then one of his competitors who had no chance to avoid him. Is only 19 when he passed. Just a weird accident during qualifying. He had 20 starts in Grand Prix racing. And the son of his father, Philippe de Pasquier, is another motocross rider. But yeah, 19 is
It's
tough
tragic.
time to
Yeah.
Yeah. Also passing fairly young this week of suicide, actually. Deshaun Robertson, also known as Lil Loaded, an American rapper. He had a hit song in the summer of 2019, which I am too white to pronounce correctly. It is LOCC 6A6Y, which I believe is Block Baby in Leet. But the song went viral. But he committed suicide on Monday.
I read that he died. I wasn't that familiar with him, but does like any reason why he took his own life, or
He allegedly shot and killed his friend while recording a music video, and then turned back in October. And turned himself into police, and was indicted in February on manslaughter charge. So it may have just been guilt, if more than nothing else. Anyway. We also lost from the world of music Johnny Trudell, who is a jazz studio musician who played trumpet and piano and flugelhorn and trombone and a few other instruments on recordings with Marvin Gaye, Martha Reeves, the Four Tops, the Temptations, like a whole bunch of folks like that in the 60s. He passed away at the age of 82. Wait, hold on. Where are we? Yeah, 82. I was 39. It took me a second to figure that out for some reason. So he passed away from cancer. From the world of baseball, we lost Mike Marshall.
I missed that.
Yeah, the pitcher pitched from 67 to 81 with the Tigers, Seattle Pilots, an original Seattle Pilot, the Astros, Expos, Dodgers, Braves, Rangers, Twins, and Mets. So you could definitely say he was a journeyman.
Didn't he win a Cy Young though? Like he had like a fluke year.
1974 Cy Young, perhaps the flukiest Cy Young award ever won.
Oh, there's a few.
No, he was 97 and 112 in his career, but he had a 3.14 ERA, which is way better. That's Jacob deGrom level of lack of run support is what that seems like. Two-time All-Star in 74, 75, led the league in saves in 73, 74, 79, won the Cy Young in 74, and still holds the major league record for pitching 106 games in a single season.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he passed away. I was really known for a screwball, but he passed away at the age of 78. He had been receiving hospice care at the time, so I'm not exactly sure what it was that he had at the time, but he had been getting in hospice care. We also lost. I just want to bring up one actor this week who passed away. Captain Merrill Steubing himself.
Oh,
Gavin McCall passed away at the age of 90 in Palm Desert, Florida. There's a great picture actually posted by Ed Asner, who's also oldest dirt, online of the two of them playing ping pong together in their 60s, which was an awesome picture. It was from like 1981. It's amazing. But Captain, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say I looked at like when it was announced that he passed. I actually thought he died a long time ago, and so then I looked at like how old he would have been when Love Boat started. He was 46.
Mm-hmm.
So which is 2 years younger than I am now, and I'm thinking, damn, I look pretty good.
Yeah, there's a picture of him on the Mary Tyler Moore Show with Betty White on his Wikipedia page, where he looks a lot older than the 44 years he was at the time of that picture. So, but people aged differently back then.
Though that's very true, but sometimes it all catches up. But I have to say that if anyone was sort of like watching Mary Tyler Moore Show, and they would have had Ed Asner as the person most likely to live the longest.
I know.
Like, who would have picked that at the time?
I know. So, but he Yeah, he had a heck of a career. Peter Gunn, The Untouchables, Dick Van Dyke Show, Perry Mason, McHale's Navy, The Munsters, Gomer Pyle, Rawhide, Andy Griffith, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., like crazy. It Takes a Thief, Mary Tyler Moore, like, of course, Murder, She Wrote, because everybody was on Murder, She Wrote at one point or another.
Never watched that show.
Oh, you never watched Murder, She Wrote?
No, I mean, like, it was just like, how am I going to get into a show like where I think she was the biggest series? I've said that, probably said this before. I think Angela Lansbury was, or whatever her character's name was the biggest serial killer of all time, because everywhere she goes, somebody dies.
Jessica B. Fletcher, as a matter of fact.
I think that should have been how that series ended. It turns out that murder I wrote or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not to give too much away. If you haven't read it, the book's only been out since 1975, but that's the way Poirot's career ended. Poirot was the murderer in his last book. So, in Curtain, the Mysterious Affair at Styles was his first mystery. Curtain was his last mystery, both in the same place. And in the last murder mystery, he actually killed the guy before somebody could kill him or kill somebody else. And then Poirot died during the book. So Hastings had to solve the murder, which he couldn't do. And of course, Poirot left a note explaining how he did it. So I guess that had already been done before, so they couldn't do it again. But
what do I know?
Well, I mean, ever since she moved, I will have to say the death rate in Cabot Cove has gone way down. So
I'll assume that was the place where that was.
It is, yes. Half the deaths in Maine took place in Cabot Cove.
Even so responsible for the other half.
Right, which is why, like, halfway through the first season, they're like, we've run out of people to kill each other or die. We have to move her on, like, a boat or someplace else so that murders can happen other places. So, anyway, Gavin MacLeod passed away at the age of 90. And then I guess the two biggest names who passed away this week. From the NBA, Mark Eaton died in a bicycle accident at the age of 64. One-time All-Star in 89. He was two-time Defensive Player of the Year in 85 and 89. Three-time All-Defensive First Team. Two-time All-Defensive Second Team. Four-time block leader. His number 53 has been retired by the Jazz. He played for them from 82 to 93. He may be the only person who has successfully blocked one of Kareem's skyhooks. Just a very, very good player and somebody who probably wasn't going to get any sort of consideration for the Hall of Fame. But I have to say, Ben Wallace's induction at least opens the door to. I mean, he's Defensive Player of the Year. It's gotta open the door for him, particularly next year where there's nobody up. Why not Mark Eaton get nominated at least?
I think sometimes, though, a lot of times, the Hall doesn't want to look, or any Hall for that matter, just say, yeah, we should have done this when he was alive. So
that's what they all do.
I know.
They all do.
I said that. It's
Ron Santo predicted 3 months before he died that he was gonna die and they're gonna put him in the Hall of Fame that year, and they did.
Yeah. Mark Eaton's got an interesting case. I think he was sort of really super happy that the Jazz retired his number, and that might have been his apex, and that might have been realistically what he could have hoped for. Having said that, yeah, Ben Wallace getting in, that helps so many other defensive players. I mean, I'm sure I'm blanking here. Who's that Bruin you've got who is a defensive forward whiz?
Oh, Bergeron?
Yes. Okay. When Guy Carbonneau got in, you had to be thinking, yeah, all right. So like down the road, my autograph's going to be worth a little bit more. that helps him huge.
Unlike Guy Carbonneau, though, Bergeron is also going to have 1,000 points in his career by the time he's done. So
sure, but it definitely helps when your calling card is the Selke, and that's not necessarily your gateway drug to the hockey hall.
Here's the most impressive thing I think about Eaton.
Mm-hmm.
Eaton still holds 2 NBA records.
Oh.
In 1984, he averaged for the season 5.6 blocks a game.
And that's still a record?
Yeah, he played 82 games, started all 82, and averaged 5.6 blocks a game. That's insane. His career average for blocks a game is 3.5. Average for his career, which is also an NBA record.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, he played for some Utah teams that didn't necessarily, I mean, the 80s Jazz weren't known for being the world's most exciting team, but he has to be somebody who's now under consideration for everything. And it sucks the way he passed away in a bike accident.
You know, just maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and that's why I choose not to.
Hey, I actually started. I didn't. This is like saying for CrossFit people saying they start CrossFit. I actually started Insanity up again here, and I did T25 before it. And since the 1st of March, I am now down 12 pounds, my friend.
Nice.
So I'm almost to Joe Martino range. No, I'm kidding. And final last person I want to talk about is 70s singer, country, contemporary Christian, pop rock star BJ Thomas. Passed away at the age of 78, probably most famous for the theme from the Sting, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. Oh, no, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. Yep. And Hooked on a Feeling, and has the record, as I've said before, for the longest titled song ever to go to number 1. Hey, Won't You Play Another Somebody Done Somebody Wrong song in 1975, which is 1 letter longer than the song that peaked at number 2 of all time, Primitive Radio God, Standing Outside a Broken Phone Booth with Money in My Hand. So.
And also he, for people of the children of the 80s, he did the Growing Pains theme.
He did do the Growing Pains theme, yeah. So, how many Grammys here? 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think they were mostly
5 Grammys. Yeah, 5 Grammys. Hey, Yo-Yo Ma's got a ton of Grammys too for chamber music. So, and a ridiculous sense of humor, just by the way.
Oh, does
super dirty man. Yo-Yo Ma. He used to live in my hometown, and so my sister played violin, and he'd like support the music school by coming to the music performances. And I sat next to Yo-Yo Ma on like 2 or 3 music performances and just listened to him tell jokes the whole time. Super funny, Yo-Yo Ma. Unexpected, but super, super funny. So he mostly for gospel music. He did win 1 GMA Dove Award.
What's
Not
that?
quite sure what that is.
That's
I don't know.
It kind of sounds like a gospel thing.
Gospel Music Association.
Okay.
So, but yeah, he passed away after he had stage 4 lung cancer, and died 9 weeks later on Saturday at the age of 78.
Very, very long, successful career. I actually thought he was more of a songwriter. I thought he wrote some of those, maybe because he just seemed like he owned it all.
Highly possible. I actually didn't see that.
Because the 2 big hits that you mentioned, he didn't write.
Right.
I think he did write the one for Growing Pains though, with his wife.
He did. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did write that one. So, but anyway, all right. So that's my death march. We got through everybody.
Okay. So I guess we'll do elevator up, elevator down. And what that is I look back at the last week and I say, hey, what happened the past week that makes their Hall of Fame potential go elevator up, ding, or elevator down, which I guess is still a ding, but I don't have the Price is Right losing horn theme. That works, yes. Yeah. And we have a first. I actually have 2 elevator downs. So I'll do an elevator down, elevator up, and then elevator down. First, I've got someone who was a previous elevator up, who's now an elevator down. And that just concluded, well, it didn't conclude, I'm assuming this ended. Julius Randle of the New York Knicks. Randle...
Concluded. So they lost, so it's concluded. So
Okay. Yeah. So Randall, I mean, statistically wasn't that bad, but the chance of overrated that welcomed him in Atlanta weren't that far off. He just wasn't the guy in any of those games. I don't really know what happened. There's a lot that he's got to work on. Derrick Rose at times was the best player on that Knicks team, and Derrick Rose is not that player anymore that he can be that, and you're going to win a series. So I almost feel like Randall.
Did Derrick Rose play himself back into the Hall of Fame conversation?
Yeah. I mean, he was someone I considered for elevator up, but I thought I'd use that for a different time. Derrick Rose, because he was a finalist for Sixth Man of the Year, and rightfully so. Rose has been very, very good. He's having that Grant Hill-like second half that he needs to have to really play his way back into that. And for those just wondering why we're talking about Rose quite a bit, Derrick Rose, if he doesn't get into the Basketball Hall of Fame, will become the first and only NBA MVP not to make it, which it could very well still happen. I think it's more likely that that's going to happen at this point. But he's having a good year. If he remains healthy, longevity is his friend, which usually isn't the case for a basketball player, but in the Hall, but in his case it is. But yeah, Randall undid a lot of the narrative that sort of came up with him this year. Didn't just lose to Atlanta, lost badly. They really weren't competitive except for a couple games. Well, they won one. Trae Young was incredible. I don't want to use him as an elevator up at this point, but yeah, Julius Randle, I feel, is an elevator down. My elevator up is Carey Price. We talked about the Montreal-Toronto series. And again, the Hart Trophy, very rare do you win the Hart Trophy and not go to the Hockey Hall of Fame. The Habs have two players that could be in that category, and Carey Price and Corey Perry.
Did Theodore win it at one point too?
Yeah, but he's one of those guys who he's
on the team now. Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry.
But yeah, Theodore's one, and a couple of players whose names are escaping me, like from the 40s and 50s. But either way, Montreal has no business winning anything.
Yeah, they do.
They really don't. I had to look up because I could not remember who was their leading scorer. I have to look that up again because I'm blanking.
While you're doing that, I just want to point out, if they were in any other division, they would not have made the playoffs.
Right, yeah, because you said that a couple of weeks ago that they are the worst team to be in the postseason. Okay, it's Tyler Toffoli, the legendary Tyler Toffoli, with his 44 points. Was the franchise leading this year.
That doesn't seem like a lot of points, even in a shortened season.
Right. It really isn't. It's not particularly great. They don't have any snipers. I think when I last checked, Montreal was leading Winnipeg, which isn't really. Did they win?
They won the game. Yeah.
Yeah, which is to be expected when you've got a team that's still active and you're playing a team like the Jets who hadn't played in 8-9 days.
Yeah.
That always happens every game one in hockey, always. So Habs fans don't get too excited, but I am cheering for you, like huge. I would love to see Montreal win the whole thing. And if that happens, then Carey Price is your guy. Carey Price has only won one Vezina, but he also won the Ted Lindsay, which is the award given. It's the Hart version given by the players.
Mm-hmm.
Carey won both, didn't he? He won the Hart.
I think he did.
He did. Yeah, so he won both. Yeah, he won the Hart and the Ted Lindsay. Price win. If it's not Carey Price, the Leafs win that in 5, maybe 4.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the great thing about hockey. A goalie can steal you, not just a series, they can steal you a Stanley Cup. Patrick Waugh did that for the same team twice, 86 and 93.
The Bruins don't have a championship without Tim Thomas that year. That 2011 right. Tim Thomas may have been the most unbeatable playoff goalie I've seen in my lifetime. Didn't matter what ridiculous save he had to make, he was making it.
I was really hesitant to sort of like use Price as my elevator up because, again, we're only talking an opening round series, but.
But we talk about playoff Rondo all the time. Playoff Price is a real thing.
Yes. No, absolutely. So for me, Carey Price was my easy elevator up. If Winnipeg wins, I'm still whoever the Canadian team is, I'm cheering for them. I'm putting the Canadian hat on. I can't get excited about Carolina winning it all. I just can't.
Well, here's the thing. If let's play this out and say that Tampa's up 2-0, Avalanche are up, the Bruins are tied, and now Montreal's up. So let's just say the Bruins and Montreal, Colorado, and Tampa all win. That means that Colorado plays Montreal, Tampa plays Boston. And it's possible we could have a Canadiens-Bruins Stanley Cup
final. How
final.
awesome would that be?
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
That said, I'm not sure Canadians are beating first of all, Bruins have to get through the Islanders. But I'm not sure the Canadians are beating Colorado. I don't know if McKinnon, forget about McDavid. McKinnon is ridiculous.
Right.
I don't know if anyone's getting through that Colorado team. And the Bruins in Tampa have had a blood feud now for half a decade. So that's going to be a vicious battle, even if that ended up happening. So, yeah, it'd be weird.
I think I do want to make one little slight retraction. As much as I sort of said, I can't really get into Carolina. Okay, I'm a Canadian. I can't. I respect the hell out of the fact that you filled that arena, and that was awesome. And you, people of Carolina, you've proven yourselves to be excellent hockey fans. Nashville, same. Why it continuously fails in Atlanta, I don't know.
Atlanta is the only team to lose 2 professional sports teams to Canadian cities.
Oh shit, that's true.
Calgary Flames and the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
Although I have to say this if we're Colorado, Montreal, Boston, and let's say Tampa, NHL super excited about the Final Four.
I would say
if it's Vegas, Winnipeg, the Islanders, and Carolina, less excited.
How fascinating is that we're talking about a New York City team?
Yeah. The Islanders team is a pain in the Bruins' ass. They have been all year. That team is super interesting, and they play a tough style of defense. My roommate from right after college, Kirk, is a huge Islanders fan. Always has been. It's weird because he doesn't really care about sports except for the Islanders. It's a very strange team to be the only team you care about. And he and I have been going back and forth about it all year. It's just a weird matchup for the Bruins and a tough. It's going to be tough. I have no real confidence. I think the Bruins are a better team. I have no real confidence they're going to beat. I had a lot of confidence they're going to beat Washington. I had no real confidence they're going to beat the Islanders.
Sometimes that's just how it is. Like when Ottawa was good, Toronto would just always squeak in and just beat the shit out of them in the playoffs, and it was just so frustrating.
So we'll see what happens, but Stanley Cup playoffs have been very good so far.
So, and I have this one's elevator down might be more you probably have a lot to say about this one. My elevator down after an ineffective playoff run and just a season where the decline is clearly here. Kemba Walker.
Oh God,
yeah. Kemba was. Go ahead.
No, I was to say Kemba Walker's got 2 years and $74 million left on that contract he has with the Celtics.
He's not playing for the Celtics next year.
Who's trading for him?
From everything I've been reading, they think they're going to try and poach him to the Clippers.
For who?
I don't know.
A bag of balls and the rights to Chauncey Billups to coach the team?
The funny thing is, it's not like Kemba Walker. If you just look at his stat line, you're thinking, well, okay, he hasn't slipped that much. But if you're looking at a Kemba Walker highlight reel from a few years ago to now, it's just not there. And for a while there, Walker was just, and I know I said it many times. What would he be around in a better place? And I think he's the best player ever in Charlotte franchise history. I really believe that. What that says isn't a whole lot, but he still is. In his first year in Boston, it was okay, but the cracks were there. And this year, he's not even close. He's just, what is he, the third option? And if that, did Kemba Walker make anyone better this year?
The biggest ability is availability, and he can't play the second game of a back-to-back. We had all sorts of games that we lost because we didn't have that next score. I mean, and as much as the Celtics had a ton of injuries, and they're hit hardest by COVID basically of any team. Mm-hmm. And the fact they even won one game was because Tatum was ridiculous for 50 points, and they needed that. He needed to do that 4 times earned from the win. He couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. But Kemba's knees are they're done. Like if they have an 82 game season next year, he's going to play 55. Like that's the most he's ever going to be able to play. And he was out like that game 5, they were down Time Lord, who's really good but can't stay on the court already as a young guy. Jaylen Brown is out, and they were out, and Kemba was out. So it was like at one point it was Tatum, Jabari Parker, Peyton Pritchard, Semi Ojeleye, and Grant Williams on the floor for an elimination game against a team with 3 Hall of Famers, and maybe 4, depending how you feel about Blake Griffin. Like there was no shot that Celtics team, with how injured they were and everything else, were going to do anything. Mm-hmm. And the lack of availability, like that whole spot has been a problem. Like ever since Hayward broke his ankle 15 minutes into his Celtics career, that salary slot has been an issue. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what they're going to do going forward. Because the rookie contracts for Tatum and Brown are done, and they kick in next year. They're going to be the reason they had to give fights away for Mo Wagner, which is essentially a bag of basketballs, because he got cut 5 games later after going. You ready for this? Mo Wagner was in for 5 minutes and was a negative 21 in 5 minutes in a basketball game.
How is that possible?
It was ridiculous. There's a game against, who are they playing? I watched that game and I couldn't believe it. The Celtics are up by like 22 points in the fourth quarter with like 6 minutes left. So they brought all the scrubs in. Mo Wagner in 5 minutes was negative 21 and had 3 fouls. And cut the next day. That's who they traded Tice for, because they needed to get under the salary cap. So the fact that Kemba probably is going to get into the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame anyway, if we're including his college career, because there's nobody who had a better college run at the end of his career than Kemba Walker. They marched through the Big East when they had the crazy Big East that had to win 5 games in 5 days. They won that and then won the NCAA tournament. That, plus being the greatest player in Charlotte history, is probably going to get him there at some point. But you're right, he's done.
Yeah, and so I do think he's the type of player that needs more. I really do.
It's entirely possible. If the Clippers want him, oh my God, just figure it out. I don't care what we get back for that. Like if we traded him for the rights, because the guy who I want to be the coach of the Celtics is Chauncey Billups. I want Billups as our next head coach. And I wanted that before, and I listened to the whole podcast today from Jackie Mack and Ryan Russillo and Bill Simmons and Kevin O'Connor on The Ringer today. And Jackie Mack brought up Billups, but that was my initial reaction anyway. I thought Billups should have been hired for the Nets job last year. Mm-hmm. But I think he's the perfect guy for that Celtics locker room to come in there. And if we could somehow trade Kemba Walker and end up with just the ability to get exclusive negotiating rights with Chauncey Billups, I will take that deal any day.
Well, maybe that'll happen. So yeah, that concludes my segment. You've got the hammer again. Kind of let me know it wasn't necessarily going to be a lot of good, bad, and ugly of the week, just a lot of bad and ugly, and we got no Clint Eastwood on this.
We don't, but I'm going to use Silky Johnson again. What can I say about this week that hasn't been said about Afghanistan? Um, all right. So there wasn't a ton. There are a few good things here and there. But here's how bad the week is. I think this week was like, instead of good, bad, and ugly, it's bad, ugly, and WTF. All right.
I've already swore, so you can go ahead.
What the fuck? Why the face? So
bad or ugly?
It's worse than ugly. So here I'm gonna start with bad.
Okay.
So here's how bad this week was. First of all, I'm not even gonna bring up really what's his name for the Braves? Why can't I think of his name?
Oh,
Ozuna. Marcelo Ozuna, who was still actively choking his wife when the police burst into their house.
Jesus.
Police break down your door and you're still actively choking your wife. I think he's probably not going to be playing baseball again anytime soon.
Well, to be fair, he went to the Roberto Alomar School of Self-Defense.
Oh, man. So that's how bad this week is. That's as much of a mention as anyone's getting. But here's the thing. Bad is only what happened to Naomi Osaka.
Okay.
So for those not paying attention, Naomi Osaka is one of the greatest female tennis players in the world. She's half Asian, half African-American, was born in Asia, moved to the United States when she was 3, has won multiple Grand Slam titles, but has in the past talked about the fact that she has some social anxiety, particularly when it comes to doing press conferences. So she told the French Open that she wasn't going to do the media availability because it's been stressing her out. She told them that before she got to the tournament. Okay? So she got to the tournament. She actually did do some media stuff while still on the court. So she answered questions still on the court. And she went through everything and she won her first round match, but she did not do the conference afterwards, right?
Yeah.
They fined her $15,000. And she essentially withdrew because she thought it would be better than being fined $15,000 every time she didn't talk. Because that's definitely what they want in the French Open, is getting one of the best players in the tournament to withdraw, not because she got injured, which happened to one of the other top-ranked players who got injured on her way to her press conference. She rolled her ankle after the match. But she had to walk away because of this. And there are tons of people who are defending the French Open on this. And here's all I need to say about that. First of all, the French Open, who wanted to expel her from the tournament if she didn't speak and had her actually step out, is the same organization that banned Serena Williams from wearing an outfit that helped prevent blood clots after she gave birth.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was inappropriate.
Okay.
These guys are fucking assholes. And the guy who gave the speech afterwards, or gave the statement, and guess what he didn't do afterwards?
What's that?
He didn't take any goddamn questions.
Really?
Fuck you! Questions after the press conference. He walked away.
I didn't know that. I was about to, I don't want to say defend the French Open because I can't and I didn't really want to. I was, because I thought this might come up because we didn't prep each other as to what we were going to cover on our sections.
What is prep?
Yeah, exactly. Well, sometimes we don't want to overlap.
True, that's true.
All right. So mostly we just want to make sure that my elevator down is not your ugly or bad or,
Right.
So I was sort of trying to think about this, and I looked up a lot of Naomi Osaka, because I thought that might come up. So my first thought was, okay, because a lot of people are like, of course, Jamel Hill saying, well, it's racist. Now, to be fair, no one's ever done this before, to my knowledge. I was trying to see if anyone has. So I don't know that knew how to handle it because they never had. What's their practice? None. You know, like you knew that they were sort of going to go all high and mighty. And so then I looked at some of the far left opinions and far right. And I hate the fact that, again, and I've said this before, that we have the sports situation and there's a far left opinion and a far right opinion. How stupid is that? But here we are. That's 2021. So if you look at a left wing opinion, so then they will go a whole lot how she's got this issue. And I believe that. Watch Naomi Osaka in any interview. She's not very interesting. She's clearly out of her depth. Ironically or coincidentally, I don't know which is the most appropriate word. I guess ironically, as I was working today and I've got my YouTube thing, I've set it up on a US filter so that I could have Hulu stuff in the background. I've got Community in the background. And a commercial comes up and it's Naomi Osaka and it's the mind of Naomi Osaka. So a commercial there. And so I'm watching that. I never watch commercials. And I wondered because like she struggles to look happy. She really does. And I wondered, my God, how many takes did it take just to get her to look even remotely camera ready? And this is not to say anything about her look. She's a very beautiful person, but she's not someone who's comfortable in front of a camera. Now she's comfortable in people's, so the right wing will encounter, well, look at all she does in social media. She's doing these commercials. Yeah, because she chooses to. Look back at the first interview the big interview she did after she won. I forget whatever. I think it was the Aussie Open, and when she beat Serena, and she's on the couch with I think Ellen, and she's just lost, and she hasn't gotten any better at it since. So I completely believe that this woman has this type of awkwardness in that situation, and when it comes to playing tennis, it all goes away.
Yeah, I just think that she informed the French Open ahead of time, like what was going to happen. She wasn't doing this as a protest. She wasn't doing this as whatever. She just said, this is making me uncomfortable for my mental health. I can't do this. And as opposed to trying to figure out a way to help one of their biggest stars in this situation, they treated her like she was.
But again,
beholden to them. No, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. They treated her like she was a qualifier who they had never seen before, right? There are ways on a baseball team, there are 25 players, they're not all treated the same, right? In a tennis tournament, there are 128 people start or 256 in the big tournaments. I can't remember. It's either 256 or 128. I can guarantee you the person she played in the first round, whose name I don't remember, I apologize. I'm sure that your family is very proud you were in the French Open. Not going to be treated the same as a multiple Grand Slam winner. So there was ample opportunity. Now, the only reason this is bad and not ugly or worse is the fact that the French Open and the WTA has now come out and said, you know what? We should have handled this better.
Which is good.
Which is good. It took this for them to figure it out, but it seems like they're actually making a move in that direction.
Well, they got defensive and didn't talk to her first. And again, though, to be fair, going back to her original statement, there was a bit of snarky comments in there from Naomi where she said, they're just going to ask me the same questions anyway. Which is true, I'm sure. I don't know anything about tennis media. I don't pretend to.
Venus, I think it was Venus today, was asked how she dealt with the media afterwards. And she's like, I just know I'm better than all of you at this sport, so none of your questions bother me.
That's her attitude, and that's fantastic. But she just have to say that, because if I was the snotty French person who's in charge of this stuff, I might get it wasn't the best choice of words on her part. She's right in what she said. She might have been better off to leave that sentence off, because she's now slamming media.
That's probably true, but here's what really happened. Nike came out in her defense, and the WTA can't afford to lose Nike.
And that's what it all comes down to. Absolutely.
That's when everyone talks about woke culture for corporations. That's what it all. That's where all the money comes down to.
I will say this though. What probably I don't know if she really thought this through, or maybe she did. She's playing 4D chess because she's now a bigger star than ever. She's going to be a bigger deal than whoever open.
I suppose that's true, but I don't think that was the original.
Probably not. But
like you don't inform somebody weeks in advance as to what you're going to do to give them time. Like it wasn't like she sent this to them 2 days before the matches. She sent them some weeks ago, saying, "Hey, I'm not going to do this. I don't feel comfortable with all the media to crush around them." And they had. It's not like they didn't have time to prepare for this. They had time to prepare. They could have talked or they could have figured something out. They just chose not to.
No, and I agree. The thing is, though, once you now say that, now most people could tell that she had issues with media just casually by looking at her and her body language. Now everyone knows it.
Right.
So that's not going to do her any favors going forward.
Maybe not.
But in terms of how she deals with it, I will close with this as someone, and I hate talking about my own mental health things because I don't really want to. But as someone who has gone through it, it is certainly. I hope that she gets through whatever it is. Maybe there's more to it. I don't know. I don't plan to know what it is. And to anyone saying, well, you know what, she's got all these millions, I don't give a fuck. You know what? Because if it's all the only currency I give a shit about, Evan, is happiness. That's the only one that matters.
I understand. And that was one of the things online. They're like, they gave her all of this money and she should answer the questions. I'm like, they didn't give it to her. She won those tournaments. She earned that money. Literally, tennis, you only get paid if you do well. Golf is the same way. You only get paid money if you do well. Like you can't get injured and just be on a contract in those sports.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I could be wrong in this. I know in golf, the golfers have to pay. They're paying their own way to get to each tournament. Is it that way in tennis?
I have absolutely no idea. I don't know.
Just
that. I will say though, I don't think. I know you said it may affect her because now everybody knows. I don't think it certainly doesn't matter on the court, so I don't think it's necessarily going to carry over. So.
Well, no, I mean for her mental health, the next time because eventually she's going to do an interview.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. I will close with this. Again, because I don't know how the media handles tennis. I just don't. Media really isn't that necessary at this stage anymore. It used to be. And I think that's the conversation that's really going to come out of this. We want to talk to Ms. Osaka. She can say whatever she'll do that on her platform, which is pretty big, and more people are going to react to whatever she does in social media than what I don't know who's a tennis reporter.
Tennis Magazine. I'm sure she has more. She has more people than Tennis Magazine has subscribers.
Right. So that shift has already happened. I think this is just really ground zero of what might transpire in the future towards access towards athletes. Because let's be honest, most of these athletes they probably share too much anyway.
Probably true. So
depending on.
So we've done a lot on bad. So I'm gonna get to ugly now.
Oh, okay.
Ugly is the NBA fan. It's been a bad week for the NBA fan. So just a quick rundown of what's happened in the first round of the playoffs so far. So we and again someone ran on the field at Wrigley today too. So it's not just then, but we had in Philadelphia. We had a fan throw popcorn at Russell Westbrook as he was leaving the floor. Oh, hold on a second. Yeah. My page got
Well, wasn't that in Washington? Oh no, Philadelphia.
It was in Philadelphia. He played for Washington.
Yeah.
So we had Russell Westbrook leaving the floor, had popcorn dumped on him, right? We had a Knicks fan spitting on Trae Young when he's doing a inbounds play. We had the dumbass in Boston throwing a water bottle at Kyrie Irving, which is exactly what he wanted. And again, all right. I have to say this. Boston has a reputation for having had a racist past, right? There are dumbasses in every major city, Boston included, who are racist pricks. The city of Boston does not hate because he is black. The city of Boston hates Kyrie Irving because he said he was going to stay there, then bailed, and when he was doing it, completely quit during the playoffs on his team. They won the first game against Milwaukee in that playoff series, and he might as well have been on a chartered plane someplace else for the final 4 games of that series. That's why they hate Kyrie Irving. The guy who they traded for Kyrie Irving, Isaiah Thomas, gets massive cheers every single time he's back in Boston. Isaiah Thomas, I don't know if you've heard, is also African-American.
I've heard that.
Right? Yeah. So it has nothing to do with the color of Kyrie's skin. It has to do with the fact he's a fucking asshole. And people in Boston, at least as far as people in Boston are concerned. Mm-hmm. That said, the 20-year-old dickhead who threw the water bottle at him should be banned from Boston sports for life. Mm-hmm. Get him the fuck out. We don't want him. Go away. Just stop. That's exactly what Kyrie was looking for. And by the way, what Jaylen Brown said to Kyrie's responses is why Jaylen Brown should never, ever leave the Celtics. Jaylen Brown is going to be elected to something at some point in his lifetime. He is conscientious, on top of issues, willing to have discussions, and not willing to put up with petty bullshit. Because he said basically, like, there's legitimate racial issues that need to be dealt with in this country, which everyone agrees with. But using them as a crutch for a situation you know is going to happen is not the way to do things. Mm-hmm. Which is exactly what happened. So Kyrie Irving, screw you, but doubly screw the guy who threw the water bottle.
And there's more. Okay. More that happened this week.
There's more. We had the fan who ran on the court during Game 4 of the Sixers and Wizards. We had Ja Morant's family being harassed by Jazz fans with racist and sexist insults. I honestly think probably around the league, more so than Boston, the group of fans who are largely thought of to be the most racist, I think, are actually Jazz fans. There are tons of stories about that.
Demographically, you could see it too.
Yeah. And then Emmanuel Quickly of the Knicks had one of his own fans throw a beer on him during the game. A Knicks fan threw a beer on him in Game 2, the same game that Trae Young was spit at. Like, that's 1 week. Like, I understand that fans are just now allowed back in the stadiums and we've forgotten how to behave, apparently. But, like, just stop it.
It's a goddamn excuse. Like, I've gone to many, many, many sporting events. I'm sure you have also. I've been drunk at most of them. Want to know how many altercations I've had? 0.
The only altercation I've ever had at a sporting event, actually there have been 2. One, I caught my foul ball I caught off the bat of Rob Deere. The 2 drunk guys behind me tried to take it from me, and that didn't go so well. The other one was we were in 8th grade. We went on a school trip to Fenway, and this is old Fenway. This is old school Boston before everything got redone. So I was in 8th grade in 1992, and the guys behind us had smuggled in their own like handles of liquor, and they had like a full thing of Jack Daniels they just finished off, and one of my classmates turned because they were being super loud and said, "Can you just shut up? We're trying to watch a game." And the guys hit him in the face with a empty bottle of Jack Daniels.
Jesus.
So we had a little bit of an issue. A whole bunch of 8th graders jumped at 2 drunk guys at Fenway. So those are the only 2 altercations I've ever had, both at Fenway. But like, I've never thought of ever throwing anything on the field.
No, and maybe because a lot of the games I went to were in Toronto, I can't really remember. Granted, I was drunk for a lot of it, but I'm a very happy-go-lucky drunk, as I'm sure you'll find out whenever I pay you off all that beer I owe you.
Just keep making bets. My bets haven't been going well recently. So.
What am I up? Or what? No, up. I'm down 3.
I'm down 3 now. I was 4. We got up to 5. I think you're down to 3. So
down 3, yeah. So I mean, I think Russ said it best. And I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was in regards to the guy who just like was dumping popcorn. Like, like if this is on the street, how different it would be. I know that's not exactly what he said, but there's a certain thing to that. Don't say anything or do anything if you wouldn't have the balls. And let's be honest, not a single one of these jackasses would have done that.
No,
wouldn't have done it.
It's the same Twitter tough guys.
Exactly. And I'm glad that the NBA and actually, no, that's not really an NBA thing. That's an individual team and arena thing. But I believe in each case, all of them have been banned. I don't know about the guy who charged the court because like he just actually went to jump. If you look at him, all he tried to do, he jumped and just like wanted to touch the rim and then got tackled from behind. I don't think he was trying to do any damage. I would love to know what Dwight Howard said to him as he's just standing over him. Like,
yeah, I don't know. But like, we're back in polite society, everybody. Don't be dicks.
It's a pretty simple request.
Yeah, just don't be dicks. Sorry, that just reminds me of one of my favorite music lines. I was listening to an old Frank Turner album earlier this week. And just one of my favorite lines ever written in any song. He said, there's no such things as rock stars. There's just people who play music. And some of them are just like us. And some of them are dicks.
Very true.
Just made me think of that line. Sorry. Frank Turner, if you don't listen to him, you guys should. He's amazing. Anyway.
Now the WTF.
The WTF.
Team football.
Speaking of dicks. What sport do you think I'm going to for this?
I honestly don't know.
I'm going to the NFL.
What happened in the NFL?
The NFL has said that it will stop selling concussion lawsuits using a race-based formula that assumes black players have lower cognitive function than whites.
My jaw dropped when I read that today. I had no idea that they even did that. Like, what the hell is this?
The NFL, every time you think like, hey, they're beginning to make some positive changes when it comes to both head injuries and race relations, you realize the only reason they do any of this is because they get their asses sued. Let me read that sentence. This is a direct quote. Again, direct quote. Mm-hmm. The NFL has said it will stop settling concussion lawsuits using a race-based formula that assumes black players have lower cognitive function than whites.
How is this not getting more press?
I don't know, because the places I saw it were like the BBC. It was like the ones who did the biggest blowout on it. Al Jazeera had a big blowout on it. I don't.
Well, I read it on ESPN, but I mean, whoever, they should just sort of like be sending a thank you flowers to Naomi Osaka. Because she's right now with the bigger deal in all this. But that should have been like the breaking news, because I read this on ESPN. I don't even know where you come up with that and think that's not going to bite you in the ass someday. I don't even know.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to say something which I don't want anyone to take out of context. Here is the slight reason why the NFL did this. Okay, their justification for it, and it's actually worse than the NFL, is that it happens throughout society all over the fucking place. It happens with economists when it comes to unemployment. It happens with doctors when it comes to kidney function. Like, there's just presumption that overall unemployment is, like, everything for African Americans is lower. Like, kidney functions is automatically lower because people are black. So there's a real number and a black number for kidney function. Like, when it comes to unemployment, there's overall unemployment and then black unemployment. They have like different versions as to how things work. It happens throughout society, which is why they're doing it. But how, like, at what point during this whole thing should you be like, hey guys, we have a whole bunch of black folks who are major moneymakers in this industry. Maybe we should like treat them equally with everybody else. Here's
at what point, day one. And I think the funny thing, well, not funny, there's nothing funny about this. The whole concussion lawsuit thing, I'm trying to think when this started. This isn't all that long ago. So we can't even go back to a whole Jim Crow era.
Mm-mm.
when all
But
when
was it Tagliabue or was it Goodell who said that there was no problem with concussions? I think that was Goodell,
probably
like
Goodell.
like 2005, 2006 time period.
So whenever they started paying off this stuff, like, well, when was that Will Smith movie? Because like that was only like done in recent, like when they were doing like the like like everything they were talking about was all relatively recent.
That was
That
2000.
came
The
out.
concussion movie was 2015.
Okay, so we're talking about probably I don't know when the first payout came, but it's got to be less than 20 years.
Yeah, I know it's definitely less than 20.
Maybe even less than that. So we're not talking about something that should have of some old standard idea that had been grandfathered in. This makes no sense to me. And you're right. I don't know how this hasn't blown up completely, especially in the times we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. Well, I mean, I guess what you pretty much laid it out how that can possibly occur. But yeah, that this is maybe that's what you should do from here on in. The bad, the ugly, and the what the fuck. I
Yeah.
don't.
I mean, I'm looking back. I just typed in Goodell and concussions, and he said something in the NFL honors back in 2016 that apparently was flippant, and people took like they weren't taking the NFL wasn't taking it seriously. And then Roger Staubach, who had 6 concussions during his career, had to apologize for his error.
What, Staubach or Goodell said that?
Staubach apologized for Goodell.
Oh, okay.
So,
This is a real downer to end this, isn't it?
well, I mean, but like,
yeah,
like
it's
how is that a thing? Not only in 2021, not 2011, not 2001. Like, how is that a thing after 1961? Like, I don't understand how they. Every time someone says that the system isn't gamed against people of color, something like this pops up. There's just inherent things within society that are gamed against people of color. They just are. They still exist.
mm-hmm.
There's reasons why. Like, I grew up in Winchester, Massachusetts, right over the border from I'm in the far southern corner of Winchester. Right next to me is the town of West Medford. Okay, so Medford itself is a city of like 90,000 people. It's a big place. It's where Tufts University is. West Medford and part of where I live in Winchester all used to belong to one guy named Brooks. It's a Brooks estate. They lived there for 200 years on this estate, and they had slaves at one point. There is something in West Medford called the Slave Wall, which was built by somebody who he freed, and then its appreciation built a wall on his property. There's a thing on it. And all the people, he gave part of his property to his slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole area of West Medford, that whole neighborhood is still almost entirely African American. Mass majority of African American people in Medford live in one neighborhood because of the way the situation happened. Levittown in New York, which is built for GIs returning from World War II, had a no blacks policy. St. Louis, we had the 65th anniversary of it the other day. I can't remember the name of the case right now. It's out of the top of my head. Where the discrimination, St. Louis had basically a law saying that African American people couldn't buy houses in their city that was overturned 65 years ago. Like all this stuff there, a city in California just gave land back to a family that they took by eminent domain 100 years ago because the black hotel that's very popular amongst black folks said they didn't want black folks. So they took it by eminent domain and never built anything on it. And that property is now worth $2.5 million, and still nothing was built on it. And they gave it back to the family. I think it was taken in 1929. So they gave it back 90 years later to the people who took it. This stuff has happened throughout the history of the United States, and it's still happening. And the fact that the NFL was exposed for it, super bad for the NFL. Something they should have dealt with a long time ago. but it fucking exists all over the place. If you don't think it exists, it's because you're intentionally not paying attention to it. The systems were designed in such a way so as to make it harder for them to get ahead based on the color of their skin. And they're slowly being undone and being exposed, and that's woke culture now. But that's what's happening. And this is just another example of it the NFL fell into.
Don't you think, though, I mean, there would have been some lawyers who would have, like, figured out this ahead of time? Like, no.
Maybe is the answer. The answer is eventually lawyers did figure it out. But it wasn't until they got sued over it.
It just wasn't their lawyers.
It wasn't their lawyers. It may have just been the fact that nobody looked at it because they never thought to look at it. Because it may not have been something, they may have thought they were just using the medical standard. And that the medical standard is the problem. And the NFL just got busted on it. But that medical standard exists. The lower cognitive function is the default number that is being used. The NFL didn't come up with this. I don't think they actively were like, black people are dumber, so the concussions don't hurt them as much. I think that it was actually the default position, and they just used the medical guidance and never really thought about it.
They are so lucky that this, I don't want to say being swept under the rug because it's not, but they are very fortunate that this did not blow up the way it really should. Maybe it still will.
Maybe it still will, right. But, yeah. I mean, between Naomi Osaka and Kyrie Irving's statements and this week, it's just another thing on the pile. I mean, Fox News this week was talking about the wokest, like, waterfront in Seattle, because Seattle said that they were going to make it open to everybody, and they're going to put a plaque up about the fact that it used to be the old docks and that there was sometimes migrant labor who is, like, mistreated there, essentially. And they did like 3 days on the wokest harbor in the United States because they were putting up a plaque about what happened there historically, and they're making it accessible to everybody. Like, that's a situation we're in right now, where basic information being shared with people is woke culture and needs to be suppressed. It's dumb.
Depends on well, I think there's so much other things we can go into, which let's not.
Fine, I agree. But again, NFL, bad look. You're going to get excoriated over this. You should get excoriated over this. You should have figured that out much earlier. People have been complaining about it.
Came up in the first place. Like, not that I do even want to excuse it if this was 1950 when it started. That's still inexcusable. It is unfathomable.
Yeah.
When the year starts with 2.
Yeah.
That's. We'll see how this plays out next week. When we reconvene, it'll be interesting to see if someone else picks up on this, or I don't know. The NFL just always seems to be Teflon.
Yeah, I mean that the dementia concussion settlement was in 2013, man.
2013. Okay, so again, not that there's an excuse regardless of the year. There really isn't, but this is especially heinous. I'm very rarely speechless, as you may have noticed. But this one sort of leaves me speechless, like just the levels of dumb. And goes up to Goodell. Like, he didn't know this?
Goodell doesn't know anything.
That could be. That's also possible.
Here's the thing about Goodell. Goodell isn't paid to know anything.
The Goodell
is paid to be the shield. Like, he defends the shield. He is the shield. He is the shield that protects the owners from basically having anyone attack them personally. He takes all the slings and arrows and at one point I know he was being paid $44 million a year for that job. I know it's gone down since then, or at least temporarily went down, right? But he gets paid $40 million a year to take all the slings and arrows that would be going to the owners otherwise. That's his entire job. He's not a good speaker.
No.
He's not particularly charismatic. Nobody thinks he does anything well except for people who think he punishes the Patriots. He's an idiot for when he does anything but punish the Patriots, right? So like his entire job is to look like a commissioner and take slings and arrows and do whatever the owners say.
Well, then he's done great. He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
He's too.
He was a Hall of Famer the moment he got the job. That's how commissioners work with the NFL, right?
Oh, because the other sports are so much better. We already have a commissioner with a Hall of Famer, Gary Bettman. Rob Manfred's going into the Hall of Fame. You know it's happening.
Well, I mean, if Bowie Kuhn is in the Hall of Fame, I feel he's worse than. I feel that Bowie Kuhn overall is worse than Rob Manfred, although I think Bowie Kuhn actually liked baseball, but I think his time was easier to have baseball as like a major part of society than it is now. Although to be fair to baseball, their ratings are way up this year.
That's true.
So I don't know what Rob Manfred is doing.
That's why I said last week, my elevator down was Adam Silver. And a big part of that is ratings are down.
Yeah, it's true.
And and again, why is he the commissioner? LeBron's the commissioner.
Yeah, I mean the NFL is really controlled by Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft.
Both another two pair of future Hall of Famers.
Well, Jones is a Hall of Famer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot.
Jones is in. Kraft is
going to be.
It depends on how many more articles Seth Wickersham and Rob Van Natta can come out about the Patriots. A couple more of those, and maybe he gets out. But their whole thing about how Trump tried to bribe.
I read that one. Yeah.
Interesting. And they're like, the whole thing was like he tried to bribe him, but they didn't. But using anonymous sources and Spector's son as their sources. That Spector didn't take the bribe and the thing didn't stop. So while I don't put it past Trump for having tried to do that for his friend Kraft, it didn't affect anything ultimately.
No, it really didn't have a whole lot to do with it. In the grand spec of things, not that I want to get too political. Is that even in the top 100 of Trump stories, really?
Can you imagine how different the world would be if they just let Trump buy the Buffalo Bills? Just think how different the world would be if they allowed that to happen. It's like when the Cardinals cut Fidel Castro.
I learned that on a Head of the Class episode.
Yeah, or Hitler got thrown out of art school in Austria. So, but like how different the world would be if they just. I mean, again, I'm not necessarily comparing the former president to either of those people, but I'm just saying in general. Of like world leaders who one thing had happened differently may have been in a different situation. So,
well, Trump will always be a very interesting character. I've never, whatever. I don't want to go into this. I really don't. We don't want to do a political show because it always winds up being that way. And let's not turn off people.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so now that we've talked about racism and Donald Trump and the show, should we just talk about we need something happy. The United States Athletics Hall of Fame. Vote for Mike Krzyzewski if you feel like it.
Absolutely. And whether you're woke and whether you're not woke, we don't care. We've got opinions. Evan's got opinions. I've got opinions. Sometimes we agree with each other. Sometimes we don't. And the great thing is, it don't matter. This is the U.S. Hall of Fame, Athletic Hall of Fame is for all of you. It's for everybody. It's for whatever you want to vote for, and we want your opinions, good or bad. Bad ones come to me, but I'll take it. That's all right. That's fine. It's meant to be whatever you think it is. That's the best way I can sort of describe it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That said,
that's
the people I vote for.
Well, they can vote for whoever they want, really. I mean, as long as they're on the ballot, of course.
Yeah. So as long as you vote for Jim Thorpe, you're doing a good job. So
I have to agree.
vote for whoever you want. Vote for whoever you want in Jim Thorpe. That's all I'm saying. So.
Especially if you're
And
from
maybe
Pennsylvania.
Yes, and maybe Babe Diedrichson's a Harris. So,
although I've been reading some stuff about her that's not very woke, but
she lived in the 1930s. Nothing was woke. So,
I'm sure some things were woke in their own way.
Some things were woke in their own way. That is true. So,
George Washington for 1776 was colossally woke.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing. Everybody based on their time period.
And that's
makes a big difference.
And that's what I think people don't do. And I think that's why let's go back to this. That's why I think you and I are so pissed off at this whole NFL concussion thing. Because you can't even point it out like, well, we were just doing it since the 50s, which would have been bad enough. But when you said like 2013, decades after instituting the Rooney Rule?
Which hasn't done much. I don't know if you've noticed.
Not as much as it definitely was set out to. That's for sure. I think there has been some strides, but not with.
You ready for a prediction?
You
ready for a prediction? I'm looking at my crystal ball.
Sure.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go 3-13 this year, and Mike Tomlin's going to get fired.
Wow. Okay.
The Steelers are going to go 3-13, and Mike Tomlin's going to get fired. The most prominent African American coach in the NFL. The Bengals will go 5-11 and be 2 games ahead of them.
The better in me was trying to think of like what odds can I sort of like push for that. But if we want to go to like a whole,
I'm sorry, I take that back. They won't go 3-13 because there's 17 games this season. So I'll give them 13 losses. They'll go 4-13. Because I was saying 3-13 and 4-12, so I'll give them 4-13.
I don't think Tomlin would necessarily get fired though for that. Having said that, if you go 4-12 and keep going 4-12, I don't care what color you are, you should be fired.
Unless you're the coach of the Bengals, and then you get to be there forever. So, but anyway.
All right, so next week, we don't know what we have. Something will always come up because it always does, but the usual segments will be here. Evan will tell you who died. I'll tell you an elevator up, an elevator down.
Apparently who died is part of my persona now. It's very strange.
I think that should put that on your business card. Evan who died Nolan. And you'll also tell us the good. Hopefully there'll be some good, the bad, the ugly. God knows what will happen. It's the playoffs. I'll definitely have somebody go elevator up, somebody go elevator down. Probably hockey elevator up, probably basketball elevator down. That's what
I will say this. It's going to be interesting. Let's just say the Bruins advance. I don't know how much postseason stuff matters, but Tuukka Rask is going to be moving up that all-time wins list for goalies pretty quickly.
It should. Wow. It'll be really interesting how a lot of this goes, and I think we're looking at the two sports where it matters the most. You know, in football, unless you're a quarterback, it doesn't.
Right. Unless you're a quarterback or you're a defensive player makes some spectacular play. I feel like Ty Law is in the Hall of Fame mostly because of his postseason performance more than anything else.
That's true. Yeah, if you're a real special player, but generally a quarterback is always judged.
Right. No, agreed. Yeah. No one judges an offensive lineman by whether or not they won the Super Bowl.
No, I mean, we're going to have Joe Thomas get in probably in the first ballot, and he will have the worst winning percentage of any Hall of Famer, first ballot or any. I don't even have to look that up. I know it's got to be true.
Joe Thomas should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He was that good. The problem is when you're an offensive lineman, there's only so much you can control about that game. So.
Yeah. All right. So we're good. Stay safe, everybody.
Good week, man.